Getting a late start today. Shout out to Charlie though, thank you for the coffee. And we got some oatmeal. I love it.
Yeah, the butcher coming. Look, I was born in 84, but I'm like 97 whole. I went platinum off a brick, I cooked on 97 stoves. Yeah, I know the streets is watching, so I'm highly skeptical. Where I'm at in my career when hitting, I be set to go. Duct tape for the blocks, black tape for the strap. Bentley in the parking lot, ashtray full of pack. Had dreams of retiring and burying the money. Back when I was young, with more experience than money.
Alright, morning guys. So what I'm thinking for today is my legs are pretty sore, so obviously not going to do any hard workout. When I'm hitting these high mileage levels, 100, 110 miles a week, I actually don't plan out every day at the beginning of the week. I go day by day based on how I feel. And so I've already banked some pretty good mileage at the beginning of the week. I did a 14-mile day on Monday, and yesterday ended up being a 20 to 22-mile day. So today I could take a little bit of a down day, which for me is anywhere from 10 to 16 miles. So I'm going to do probably an 8-miler this morning, 8 to 10-miler, depending on how I feel. And then may or may not do a second run, depending on how I feel. But while my thoughts are still fresh on the Alphafly 3 and the Nike Vaporfly 3, I thought this would be a good time to do a comparison of those two head to head in the office. We'll go in there and I can dive into both those shoes, give you all my thoughts on who they're best for, how they performed out there, and dive into some of the tech as well. Time to get into this Alphafly versus Vaporfly comparison. So I just got the Alphaflies a few weeks ago. Nike was kind enough to send these to me. These are the only shoes that I've ever gotten sent for free. Thank you, Nike. Shout out to Aaron Burns. Now, Vaporfly 3s, Charlie actually got these for me as a birthday present. So I got the Kipchoge edition. I was so excited when I opened these up on my birthday. This was it's a beautiful shoe, and I love Kipchoge. I love everything he stands for. So that's important to me, in a race day shoe. When I put it on, I get this emotional feeling. That's why I'm gonna get the Diadora Gara, because I just love how that shoe makes me feel when I look at it. So today I want to do a hands-on comparison between these two. Now, in these comparison videos, I like to really go in depth with these products, do a little bit of a technical analysis between all of the components of them. We'll start with a little overview of how these products slot into Nike's lineup. Then I'll dive into the midsole setup on both of these. I'll tell you how they perform out there on the ride, and this is why I wanted to do this video today, because I just did a 16 by 400 workout yesterday where I compared the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3, Adidas Takumi Sen, Nike Vaporfly, and Nike Alphafly at my 5K race pace. So that's also why I'm taking a little bit of a slower day this morning, because my legs are pretty sore and I'm trying to recover from that workout before going into some more hard volume later this week. And then after diving into the ride, we will go into the upper and fit. What's the difference in both of these fit? Which one is better for wide feet? And then my favorite section is outsole and durability. So I'll talk you through which are a more durable shoe, and I'll end with who these are best for, especially given the price differences of these two. So if this is your first time watching the channel, thanks for watching. If you're an OG, you know the drill. Let's get into it. So the Nike Vaporfly is the shoe that kickstarted this super shoe category as we know it today. So when Nike first came out with the shoe back in 2017, 2018, it was the first shoe to have that 40mm stack of this bouncy race day foam with the carbon fiber plate. And that initial shoe was tested in the lab a ton of times against a bunch of other different shoes and shown to be the most efficient race day shoe on the market. So when the Vaporfly dropped, a lot of sponsored athletes from every single brand out there, Brooks, Asics, and I'm just rattling off brands, I don't know if these athletes actually did that, but a lot of sponsored athletes who weren't Nike athletes raced in the shoe because it was giving competitors such an advantage out there. And that's why the initial shoe was called that Nike 4%. Now in the second generation of the shoe, they called it the next percent because it's supposed to give you that next little percent of energy return. And then this is the third iteration, which they call the next percent 3. Now, since that first version came out, there haven't been too many changes to the formula. Nothing has actually given a more 1%, 2%, 3% efficiency in the marathon time, but they just keep tweaking it a little bit, and there haven't really been any major breakthroughs. It seems like the Adidas Pro Evo, which is that super lightweight shoe that came out last year, might be the little next step in innovation in this category, and maybe we'll see a race to the bottom when it comes to lightness. But that's not proven out yet, and until then, the Vaporfly Next Percent 3 is still really the standard bearer in the category in terms of how a marathon racing shoe should perform. So what differentiates the Alphafly from the Vaporfly is mainly in the forefoot here. You can see that there's these AirPod units. That's the secret sauce of the Alphafly. If you think about the lineage of this shoe, the first generation of this is what Eliud Kipchoge used to set that sub 2 hour marathon record that he ran. Now, it wasn't sanctioned as a world record, which still gets under my skin today. I think if you can run a 1:59:40, it should be sanctioned as a world record, man. Anyway, this shoe is designed really for the best of the best, for athletes at the top of their game, and it's been Eliud Kipchoge's marathon shoe of choice in all of the generations for the past few years, and he actually ran the Berlin Marathon in this guy right here last year. So because of the extra tech you're getting in the Alphafly, this is gonna be a little bit more expensive. It's always been $25 more expensive than the Vaporfly, at least over the past few years. And this one holds that same difference. This is gonna be $285 and the Vaporfly is $260. Prices have gone up on both of these by $10 since last year, thanks to inflation. And prices are going up across the board. Even Ultra is pricing their new plated racer at $260. So that's just what we gotta deal with in the racing market in 2024. Now, in terms of the specs, I couldn't find a reliable weight figure for the men's sample size 9 in the Alphafly 3, so I went ahead and just weighed both of my pairs on our coffee scale here. By the way, this coffee scale I have here is one of the most durable pieces of technology I own. This thing has gone to Florida, it's gone to New York, it's gone to the Cape, it's been at the bottom of my backpack while my daughter's probably jumping up on top of it, getting in and out of the Jeep. And last week, I spilled a little bit of water on it, and it went out for 2 days, and then it came back to life like Meek Mill on that second half of Dreams and Nightmares there. And now it's working again, weighing its first 2 pairs of shoes. So shout out to this scale right here. So in my men's 10.5 US, Alphafly came in at a little bit heavier. It was 220 grams, which works out to 7.7 ounces. Then the Vaporfly was 207 grams, which works out to 7.3 ounces. So on foot, Vaporfly does feel a little bit lighter weight. I also think because it doesn't have those pods up in the forefoot, it just runs a little bit lighter because it runs like a simpler shoe. Now diving into the midsole, both of these use Nike's ZoomX midsole foam. It's their top tier racing foam. It's still my favorite foam to race in, especially in the Vaporfly. It's just a little bit softer and a little bit of a floatier long feeling than some of those other popular race day shoes on the market, like the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 with that Power Run PB. It's just a beautiful feeling underfoot with this ZoomX. They both have a 40mm stack in the heel. Main difference is going to be the drop and the forefoot stack. As I mentioned in that comparison and workout video yesterday, feels a little bit like it's a lower drop or even negative drop shoe, because one thing that doesn't show up on specs is how much this heel foam protrudes in the back here. So if you take a look at these two shoes, let's do this right for you guys. You can see that the back of the platform here, beyond where your heel would be in the Vaporfly here, there is foam coming off the back. So your heel would stop here, and there's about almost an inch of foam. Now, if we look at the Vaporfly, that is not the case. There's a little jet out of foam here, like a spoiler you might see on a Toyota Supra. And then if you look underneath the heel, this would be the straight line coming down from the back of the heel. There's actually no foam. So you're gonna get about an inch more foam on the back of the shoe in the Vaporfly than the Alphafly. And that's something that doesn't show up in the stat sheet. It doesn't show up on the specs, but it makes a whole world of difference in terms of how this shoe feels, in terms of how that drop feels specifically, because with the Vaporfly, that little bit of extra foam eases the transition, makes a little bit of a smoother ride to get up in the forefoot. Whereas in the Alphafly, you're not gonna get that same benefit. So if you are a heel striker, it's just a little bit more of a fight, a little bit more uncomfortable to get up to the toe in this platform in the Alphafly 3. Now these both have Nike's fly plate in here, and you can see it through the bottom of the Alphafly. I actually like what they've done with the midsole design here, and they've cut out a lot of foam to save weight, so you can see through to the plate in a few areas. And then same thing here in the Vaporfly, you have a little bit of a cutout, but if you just look at these setups from the bottom, you can see you're getting a lot more foam underfoot in the Vaporfly here, and it is coming in at a lighter weight. So it seems like the pods that are going into the Alphafly are really where a lot of that weight penalty is coming from, because you have so many more cutouts, but it's still coming in at a little bit of heavier weight with a bunch less foam in this shoe. So in terms of the ride of these, yesterday I did that 16 by 400 meter workout. And so the way I structured it was I did 4 sets of 4 reps, trying to work down to my 5K race pace, which for me is about 5:30 to 5:40 right now. The way I structured the workout, I got 2 miles in each shoe. And then in terms of my background with these shoes, I've also done a 20 miler in the Alphafly 3 here, and I've done a 12-mile marathon tempo in it. And then in the Vaporfly, I've raced a hard half marathon in it and done 1 or 2 2 other workouts at least. I think maybe just 1 workout before going into my half marathon back in October. So in terms of the ride of these, if you've been in either previous generation, there's not going to be a whole lot of difference, especially in the Vaporfly. I can't speak to the exact ride of the Alphafly 2 because I didn't run in it, but I can tell you that the pods are still very prominent in here. And I was telling my guy Jared on Strava that even though they did smooth out the midsole here in the Alphafly 3, they connected it, they made it one piece, it's still not that smooth experience that you would get out of the Vaporfly 3. So if you like the Vaporfly in the past, you'll likely like it still better than the Alphafly. So other than being a little bit of a smoother ride and a little bit better for heel strikers, Vaporfly also has a different sensation because of what you're getting under the forefoot. So the pods on the Alphafly really make the world of difference. And I mentioned this in my full review of the Alphafly, but if you think about what you're getting every time you land. So consider that there's about 34 millimeters of stuff underneath your foot. That's how they measure the drop, right? 34 millimeters here in the Alphafly. Half of that will be the foam maybe, let's say 15 for simplicity's sake. And then the rest of it is going to be the carbon fiber plate and the AirPod units. And that's what's going to be in between those 15 millimeters of foam in the ground. Compare that to the Vaporfly here, where you're getting more than 30 millimeters of foam under the foot. And the only thing in between that foam and the ground is the carbon fiber plate. So the Alphafly, you really do get this sensation of running right on top of those pods, especially because the ZoomX is very compressive. So it is a crunchier ride. It is a firmer ride down there on the forefoot than the Vaporfly 3, where you're getting all that ZoomX, which is a lot more protective feeling and a lot softer feeling every time you land. So that's one of the key things that makes the Vaporfly a much more comfortable shoe out there, because it has so much more of this foam underfoot and it doesn't have anything else that gets in the way of the ride. This is a shoe that feels a little bit better at slower paces. It's definitely not the slower shoe, but it is a touch more natural to run in than the Alphafly because you're getting all that foam as you would in a typical training shoe. Now where the Alphafly takes the cake is it is a much faster shoe. If you can run with force, if you are popping off the forefoot here, you can run at mid to forefoot with strength for the entirety of a workout or the entirety of the race, you are going to be ripping off some really fast times. And when I had this shoe on, I could feel the efficiency because I was looking at my splits and I was knocking off 5:15, 5:10, 5:20 at the end of a 14-mile session, and it didn't feel like I was running that fast. And that's what a great race day shoe does. It gives you 5 to 15 seconds per mile depending on your pace versus a typical training shoe. Now Vaporfly does have that feeling too, but for me as a heavier runner, I do think the Alphafly 3 might be a little bit of a faster shoe, even though it's not the most comfortable for me to run in with my mechanics. Now in terms of the upper and fit on these, the key difference is that the Alphafly here goes with this Atom knit upper, which is a booty, it's a sock-like construction, whereas the Vaporfly 3 has a more traditional upper. You can see here there's a tongue, regular lacing system. They do use the same laces, but if you look, take a look here, you can see Alphafly is going with this one-piece construction. See, one piece, no tongue, and then Vaporfly, we got the flopping. The actual fit of these when they're on foot is both comfortable, they're both pretty similar. I had no issues with rubbing in the Alphafly 3. I know that was an issue some runners had in a previous generation. And in the Vaporfly 3 here, actually in both of these shoes, I had no issues with it being a narrower platform. I think Vaporfly 2 was a touch narrower in the midfoot. I've had no trouble getting my foot into either of these shoes, and I've had no trouble with arch insoles or anything like that. So if you have used Nike shoes in the past, if you've run in the Vomero recently or the Pegasus, these fit, I think, a touch wider than the Pegasus, both in the forefoot and the midfoot, and pretty similar to that Vomero, and you should be able to order true to size. The material itself on both of these is some of the most lightweight, breathable stuff out there, particularly on this Atom knit. This is a really impressive construction. It's like a spider web. It's strong, it's light, it's see-through. And then on the Vaporfly here, also light and see-through, but I just think I like the one-piece upper on here. It gives it a little bit more of a special elevated feeling over my training shoes because no training shoe on the market has an upper like this. Yes, there are some shoes with this booty-like sock construction, but this has just the right amount of stretch that really locks your foot down in place. And this is one of the best lockdowns out there. So I have to give the lockdown to the Alphafly just because this one piece, but they have made a lot of improvements in the Vaporfly 3 here. Vaporfly 2 did have a little bit of a messier feeling up around the back. Didn't have the greatest lockdown around the ankle, but they've improved that with some padding here and with giving a little bit of a tighter fit up near that ankle. Now, if you do have a 2E or 4E width foot, you might be able to get away with sizing half a size up if you just want to use these for a half marathon or a marathon, but I would suggest trying to go into a local store. I know out here in Charlotte, the Charlotte Running Company does carry the Alphafly. Fleet Feet don't carry carry Alphafly and Vaporfly in person. REIs don't carry these in person. Dick's Sporting Goods don't carry these in person. But what you want to do is seek out the best local running store in your area, and one of them will carry Nike and they will have the Alphaflies. So when this drops, if you have a wider foot, try to get in there and get one of these on your foot before ordering it. And then order it using my affiliate links. Coming soon, baby. We got a good partnership for shoe purchases coming soon, guys. Stay tuned. Alright guys, now this outsole and durability section, I'm gonna go through these shoes one by one because I really want to highlight what's happened to my Vaporfly here after that race I did in October. Take a look at this. Look how much foam I lost off the back. So this isn't the first time that's happened to me with the Vaporfly. My Vaporfly 2 also lost a lot of foam back here. And this is just one of the downsides of how Nike lays out the rubber on this Vaporfly here. So Vaporfly is not gonna be a super durable shoe for a heel striker, but they have added a decent amount of rubber up here in the forefoot. I really like how this feels, and it's not wearing through too much. I only have probably about 50 to 60 miles on this right now, but it is in really good shape. And I've seen a lot of runners take their Vaporflies to 400 and 500 miles. So if you're a high school runner or a college runner and you like putting a lot of miles on your shoe, or if you just like putting a lot of miles on your shoe, you can do that with these. What is gonna happen is the foam is gonna lose a little bit of that bounce feeling. It's gonna lose a little bit of that soft cushion. The plate isn't really gonna lose too much snap until it gets out into that really later stages of life. And it's not gonna be giving you 4%, 5% energy return when it has 300 miles on it, but you still can use it as a tempo shoe, an interval training shoe, whatever you want to do. The main consideration is the rubber. I don't like running in shoes once the rubber is gone. I don't like running in shoes once the foam has started to degrade, because that means the character of the ride will change, and there's no point to risk an injury, especially as an adult runner getting up into your 30s, 40s, 50s and beyond. There's no point to risk it if you do have a solid income and you can pay for new shoes. So with that being said, I think for most runners out there who like to keep their shoes decently fresh, who retire their training shoes around 250 to 400 miles, you should get about 100 miles of solid racing use out of this shoe, and then another 100 to 150, maybe 200 miles max of training use. So it can get up into that same range as your trainers, but the performance benefits of it, the pop and the zing that we want to get on race day, those are only going to last for about 100 miles. So for me, once it started to lose its luster a little bit after a few races, go in and rotate a new one, but it can last for a few hundred miles. All right guys, now to the Alphafly durability here. You'll see on the back we are starting to get some wear and also degrading the foam a little bit, but I think I'm gonna have better luck in terms of the foam keeping its form and not getting big pieces chunked off, just because Nike did the chunking off themselves, right? They didn't include the heel extension that we have in the Vaporfly, which means the area that I would be slamming against the back here for my normal foot strike, for my warm up and cool down paces, and even for my marathon pace, we don't have that foam at all. And so you can see where I'm landing, it's gonna be a little bit on the back here. So it's potential that we'll see on this little cup of foam, some chunks falling out. But so far it's holding up pretty well. We are seeing the swoosh on the rubber rub off, but largely cosmetic. No cause for concern. And up on the forefoot here, this rubber is looking pretty good as well. And I think should hold up to 200, 300 miles just fine. Now, like the Vaporfly, this is gonna have a usable life of 1 to 2 to 3 marathons for racing, and then you can mix it into your training rotation. The difference is gonna be, because it's not a 100% foam midsole, because it does have those pods up in the forefoot, they are gonna age a little bit differently. This is my first Alphafly, so I'm not exactly sure how these pods are gonna age, but my hunch is that the pods are gonna have a little bit more life to them than the foam. So I project, as long as you're not wearing down the rubber super hard, as long as you're not wearing down a ton of the foam, I do think you'll get a little bit more life out of this than that Vaporfly. Again, you might not want to race on it when it has 250 miles, but this should hold up for the long term. Both of these shoes are really well made. Nike's still doing a great job in that department, so I'm optimistic about the durability of this guy here. Alright guys, in terms of who these are best for, Vaporfly is going to be best for most people. It has a more comfortable ride, it has a more natural feeling ride, and because it has the extension of heel foam out there on the back, it has a ride that's more accommodating for a wide variety of foot strikes and wide variety of paces. Alphafly, on the other hand, is a fast racing weapon. This thing is going to be best if you can land up on your forefoot and if you can rip off some fast paces. So for me, at those 5:30 and sub 5:30 paces yesterday, this thing was super fast and it allowed me to hit some of my fastest splits of the day on tired legs. So if you want to hit your fastest paces on tired legs, if you plan on racing a marathon PR or half marathon PR and are going for sub 7 minute, sub 6:30 paces, Alphafly 3 is going to be a great choice. Now there's also a little bit of a preference here, not just demographics in terms of your size, in terms of your foot strike and how you run. Preference being, if you like a softer, more cushioned experience, that's going to be the Vaporfly. If you like to feel a little bit of a harsher, firmer, more aggressive ride underfoot, if you like to feel that power underneath you, that's going to be the Alphafly. This thing has a little bit more of that oomph when you dig in and really give it the gas. The AirPods aren't going to work for everyone, but when you are giving it your all, Alphafly does give you a little bit more than the Vaporfly. So if you're in the best shape of your life, you want a PR, you can hold sub 6:30 paces, sub 7 minute paces, Alphafly is going to be a good option for you. Otherwise, if you want something that's going to be a little bit more comfortable for the later stages of the marathon, or you prefer a softer shoe, then Vaporfly is going to be the shoe for you. In my experience, you can't go wrong with the Vaporfly. It's just a little bit more of an accommodating shoe for most people. There's nothing off-putting about the way it rides. The only real downside here, the only real knock, is that it can feel a little bit too soft for some people. When I first used the shoe, I loved it, but it was a lot softer than anything else I was running in. So if you're not used to using a soft shoe, that might be the one downside here. So another shoe I might look at besides these two, if you want a little bit of a firmer shoe but aren't sure about the AirPods in here, is the Saucony Endorphin Elite. That one also has a Bounty race day foam. It's called Power Run HG, and it's a supercritical PIBA. It has a really aggressive rocker similar to the Alphafly, but a little bit of a simpler setup there, and also a more extended heel foam in the back, so it should work for a variety of foot strikes, unlike the Alphafly, which works best for 4-foot strikers. All right, guys, one last thing. We are doing the January shoe giveaway still. So the men's 10.5 in the Reebok Float Sig is gone, but I still have this women's 10 here. So if you or anyone you know can use a daily trainer for your winter or spring training, shoot me a DM on Instagram. Let me know how you'd plan to use this or who you want to gift this shoe to if you have someone in your life who's gonna use this women's 10 Reebok Float Zig. This is their newest daily trainer. It's designed to be durable, comfortable, a little bit of pep. So if you or one of your friends is gonna put this thing through the paces, let me know how you or she is gonna use it, what their goals are, and I'll get the shoe out to the person who is gonna use it best. All right, guys, as always, thanks for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with another video.